Today we welcome Timothy Armoo. He sold his company Fanbytes for an 8-figure sum before he hit 30, was Entrepreneur of the Year by Huffington Post, and his story has massively resonated with me hugely over the years. And we're going to be getting into the mindsets and principles that will actually change your life. Timo, how are you doing, man? You well?
It's cracking. I'm great. Let's roll. This is fun.
Thank you for giving it the time, man. I appreciate it. And like someone in your team, Ali, sent me the book, and I've just been gobbling it up, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of time into the book. And so it's very cool to see, even when I share with friends, they send me voice notes back saying, whoa, like, thank you for communicating something that I thought about for a while in a very simple way. Thank you for, I know people are going to be able to start the business with this and that. So yeah, it's great.
Like your life, I think I hugely relate to, because our grandmothers were like massive parts of our life as well, which is kind of cool. Like my grandmother played a massive pivotal role in my upbringing. And so to read that about you as well was quite like, I just sort of connected straight away to that story, which is really cool. Yours was younger years. Mine was my teenage years. So I had like a complete flip around there. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that like environments have made you into the man that you are today. Multitude of different environments growing up. And you've seen both sides of the coin, definitely through schooling, through environment where you lived, Ghana to Old Kent Road. Like those experiences have shaped you. Do you feel like environment is the biggest factor in your outcomes in life? And can you change that, do you think?
Ooh, great. I think your physical environment is actually different from your mental environment. So as you said, like I grew up in South London, Old Kent Road, from basically 10 up until say 23. And then before that, for the first 10 years, I grew up in Ghana. My physical environment on Old Kent Road during that time was like just around me was like drugs, violence. That was the height of the whole Old Kent Road, Peckham, Brixton beef. But my mental environment was different. I just had this desire to just get out of there. And so in my head, I was out of there. It was just like physically, I wasn't there, right? There's a story that we tell in the book, which is like once a week, I will go to really fancy hotels and I will sit in those hotels and I would just work from my really like crappy Toshiba laptop, because to me, I was trying to like brainwash myself to say, yo, mentally, I am meant to be with these, rich people, but sure, maybe like physically, I'm not, but eventually it will catch up. So your physical environment does play a big role, but I actually think that you can counter that by just almost brainwashing yourself to be in a different mental environment, and eventually the physical will actually catch up.
Yeah, and you were like diving into websites of entrepreneurs like that retire at 21.
Yeah.
That was so interesting for me, because you were like almost showing yourself actually this is possible, and then you framed it mentally, and then you framed it physically by going and sitting in Claridge's and doing all these cool things. And so like if you're sitting there right now and you're thinking, well, this is my environment, like how do I then start to sort of put those frameworks into place where I can actually like change my outcome?
Well, for me, one of the most important things is every day that I grew up on Old Kent Road, like 4th floor, a council estate, like every day I was there, I just mentally told myself this story that it was only temporary. And I've said this before, which is like we had 4 flights of stairs and there were no lifts, right? So like you're going up those stairs every single day. And I would constantly, like with every step, I'd say, I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be here. And I think there is something to be said for like brainwashing yourself to the point where it's just your new reality. And you mentioned that really interesting site, retire at 21. Actually, here's a very funny story. Yesterday, I was at an event and one of the guys who I used to read his story was there.
No way.
And I was like, yo, you and your co-founder, I used to read about you all the time. They founded a company called Paddle, which then ended up being like a $1 billion business. And I was like, yo, you and your co-founder, I used to read about you all the time. And like, since then I've met so many people who I used to read about. And the very funny thing is like, I found out that these guys are so unremarkable. Like they are so unremarkable. I put them on such a massive pedestal when I was younger. And I think in a very weird way, if I had realized actually how unremarkable they were, and equally, even for me, I tell so many people, I'm like, bro, don't hear the story and go, oh, like this guy built a company and sold multiple companies, so there's something so different about him. No, it's just, I just had like the same level of like self-doubt, negative self-talk, and then I just outworked that with enough evidence. I was just like, oh, I started this business at 14. Okay, it didn't kind of fail too badly. Oh, I did this thing at 17. Oh, it didn't kind of fail too badly. Oh, I did this other thing. It didn't kind of fail too badly. And then eventually you wake up at like 27 and you've sold a bunch of companies and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I still have that same kind of self-doubt, but I just kept going. And eventually over time, I thought, yeah, now this is my life now. I think that's a big thing for people to really take, whether it's starting a business or a new job or going into any profession. I think at some point we think that the elements of doubt will go somewhere, and they never actually go. What ends up happening is that you just get good at recognizing them and then quietening them and then basically still doing the thing. There's a chapter in the book, cheat code number 7. So we call each chapter a cheat code. Cheat code number 7 is do it scared. It's not just do it. It is, no, do it. You will be scared, but do it scared, because that's much better than not doing it.
Oh, I love you said that. I was smiling when you were saying that to me, when you said they're not remarkable, because it is so funny. Like, I made a video literally last night saying exactly that thing, because I've met multiple millionaires that sold companies. I was at an event with a billionaire the other day, and one thing I'll say is that they are all, you said unremarkable in the video, I said they're all idiots just like us. and it is, I think it's true, because the only thing that separates like me from them or us from them, or whatever you might say, is that there's just this inherent lack of fear of failure. Like, they just don't care. They're willing to embarrass themselves. They're willing to push themselves outside their comfort zone, and actually they thrive in that environment. And that is the difference, because they've gone and done the thing, and actually they haven't got to that point without failing 100 times before that.
And there's this whole idea of failing your way to success. And maybe if we come onto it, or if people were to go on my LinkedIn now, they will see like started a business at 14 and then started a business at 17, sold that business, started a business at 21, sold that business. But then what I didn't include on LinkedIn is actually like the 12 other businesses that I started and it didn't actually go anywhere. In fact, there's actually a position on my LinkedIn profile called like Chief Failure Officer, because and then it just like lists a bunch of different things that I tried that didn't quite work. And it's because fundamentally, as you said, like the billionaires, multimillionaires, the people who've done anything of any significance, they basically like failed their way to success rather than the first thing that they did was that they won.
100%. And that's why I love content, because it's kind of like a self-reinforcing loop. And actually I really enjoy the failures. So I'm like, oh, what did we do wrong there? Like, I thought that hook was a banger. Was it delivery? Was it captions? Was it timing? Like, there's so many factors at play there, and it's like this self-reinforcing loop. But I just want to tuck back onto this environment thing, because I think it's really important. And I think in the UK especially, we have these tight-knit communities. We have these pathways laid out for us. We live often in rural areas or villages, or even in cities and inner cities and small like communities, and stepping away from like your gang is really difficult to do. And people, when they do, they feel like they're going to betray the rest of the people around them, and suddenly they're this new individual that's on their own. And I'd love to know, like, because obviously you mentioned about the old Kent Road crew and in the book, which I found like really cool, but you obviously shifted your identity completely. And I'd love to know like how you even managed to do that, other than obviously mentally telling yourself to do that, because it's like, it's not easy, right? And how can someone that's, say, stuck in that tight-knit community just go, I'm going to be this new person? Because that is an inherent fear alone before you even get into building the thing.
So I'd love to give some kind of 3-step framework for you to basically leave the tribe that you felt so emotionally tied to. But the truth is, there isn't really a 3-step framework. A lot of it does come down to, do you have the balls? That's it. Like, do you have the balls to make the decision? Because the fear is actually not in then living after the decision. The fear is actually in the decision. I think about this a lot also in like business and relationships, right? There have been a few like people that I've dated and it hasn't quite worked out. And I know it hasn't been working out. And the fear that I think the fear is what life is afterwards, after not dating them. But the fear is actually like those 2 minutes where you say, "Hey, I don't think we should be together anymore."
That
right?
awkward convo.
Yeah. It's like when you run a business and you need to let someone go, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know," and then you're like losing so many sleepless nights, etc. And you think that the thing is, I'm scared of firing them. But actually, the thing that you're scared of is that 2 minute thing to say, "Hey, it's not quite working out." And then eventually what will happen is you give it 48 hours and it would just go. And I find that to be the case, whether it was myself when I was, living in Oak Kent Road, and I felt this pressure to be part of the gang, part of the people, part of the mandem. And then it was like, okay, well, the decision is I don't actually want to do this anymore. In my case, one of the weirdest things, and I talk about this in the book, and there's a chapter that we title "A Gangster Saved My Life," right? Because I remember there was a time I was like 15, 16, and I was just like part of the mandem just because I was just around them. So I figured, okay, this was a fine community to be a part of.
Environment, you needed friends. Right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I needed friends. I needed a sense of self because I lived in South London with my dad, and it was just he and I. And my mum lives in North London. And I remember us like getting ready to ride out. And for those who don't know what ride out means, it's the dumbest thing ever. Basically, you get on bikes and you go to like the other ends. So you go from Oak Kent Road to Peckham, which by the way is separated by literally one street.
Yeah.
Like, it's so stupid that you fight against each other separated by one street. These postcode rules are so dumb. So anyway, riding out means that you go to the other side and all you do is basically like take pictures and videos and be like, yeah, man, we came over and you guys didn't do anything. It's like, well, okay, but if they were around, we still run away anyway. So what the heck's the point? So I remember just like really hoping that we didn't actually like see anyone. And then this guy, Mike's basically, who was like the leader of the gang, basically was like, this ain't for you, bro. And when he said that, it was so strange because my first instinct was to try and prove to him that no, actually it is. But what he had seen in me was actually that I was significantly bigger than all this stupid stuff I was doing. Another story of that is actually my English teacher, Miss Shabaki. What an amazing woman. Like, she saw more in me than I saw in myself. I remember when I was 15 as well, same age, she took me aside and she said, hey, Timo, you're a very smart person if you apply yourself. So just do so. And so to answer your question about like, to that person who feels like they're part of a tribe and then how do they move out of the tribe? The most practical thing I can say is like, have a greater vision for yourself than you currently do now. And if not, look for evidence that other people have a greater vision for you. Because there's something weird that happens. Like, other people want more for us than we want of ourselves. In the same way you want more for your friend, you will give your friend better advice than you give yourself. And so sometimes I say to my other friends, I say something like, give yourself the same advice you'd give to your best friend because you are your best friend. And often they're like, yeah, why the heck don't I care about myself as much as I do for my other friends? So if you're going to hold your friends to a high standard, then hold yourself to a high standard, which then gives you the permission to then leave the tribe you're in, whether it's a gang or whatever, but also whether it's like a career choice.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like your whole family wants you to be the doctor or the lawyer, and you really want to go become a creative. Like, you really want to go and start your own business. The truth is, like, if you hold yourself to a significantly higher standard and you realize life is actually weirdly short, you'll just go and do the thing anyway.
Do you feel like no matter how hard you're working right now, you're still being forced to cut things that you love from your monthly budget? We used to be able to make decisions without worrying, but right now we're being squeezed left, right, and center. And that is something that I am not okay with. And that's why I've created Gains app. Gains uses smart AI, allowing you to connect all of your bank accounts in one single location so you can see exactly what is going on with your money. Plus, it puts money back directly into your pocket when you use it through instant cashback on your spending. Everything is personalized to you as an individual as well. So we're going to highlight things that you could be saving on and where to do it as well. The app is going live in January 2026 and you can join the waitlist right now. And when you do, you get entered into a competition to win your food shopping paid for an entire year. Simply hit the link below and join the waitlist today. Let's make life less expensive. I love that. I love that. And I think as well, it's really interesting, like something you said there that sort of sparked this Alex Hormozy quote in my head, which is where he was like, there's that period where that 6 months where you basically are alone while you go out and you find your new tribe, but eventually you find your new tribe. And there's that like lonely period where you're like drifting in between, but actually like that's you growing into this new individual. But it does come. Like I did it when I used to run hospitality businesses. Now I do a financial education business. I mean, like a hard switch, right? I didn't really know anyone in website building and SEO and Facebook ads and these types of things. But as you start to dive into it, you start following these people online, you start having conversations, you get invited to the event. Suddenly you're at the event, there's 50 people there. You find your best friend who's now my co-founder. And it's like, you know, there's like so many sort of things that would happen. But that first 6 months was basically me in a bedroom just trying to figure it out. Like, and you have to go on that journey with yourself to like actually get to where you actually want to be. But a lot of people aren't willing to sort of put themselves through that.
Yeah, that first 6 months is tuition for being your new self. That's basically all it is. And it's pretty good tuition because it's only 6 months.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah,
it
went fast. It went fast. Like life changed rapidly after that period. Like everything changes. And so it can be a case of 6 to 12 months and life could look completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah. You just got to go and believe. And this is like, this education's free.
Yeah.
It's YouTube.
Yeah. Every business that I've ever started or every business that I've ever run, right? Even Fanbytes, the business that people know me for. It was very simple business. It was like connecting brands to influencers. That was it. And then we just took a cut in the middle and that business ends up becoming like an 8-figure business. That is not novel. Like I copy that idea from people in the US. And every single idea I've ever had has basically been an iteration of something else. And I am perfectly shameless about them. Like,
you do. You say originality is overrated.
It's so overrated. And you know, one of the things I find also even about your content that I really like is the fact that when you're talking about the basics of financial management and money management, like we know what it is, right? Whether it's yourself talking about it or Dave Ramsey talking about it or Ramit Sethi talking about it, like it's fundamentally the same information, but then it's packaged in a way that makes it accessible to whoever the person is. But if you understand the fundamentals of business, understand the like fundamentals of money, you can apply that to so many different things.
Yeah.
And so I think I was around like 21 when I went, hang on a sec. This business thing is actually very solvable. It's actually very predictable. It's you find people who have a problem. You create a product or service that solves that problem. Then you just do it over and over and over again. And then you maybe get some people to help you do the thing over and over and over again. And maybe you need some investors who just help you do the thing over and over again. And then at some point you say, oh, wow, now I have a business. And that's business. And I think just like taking that view on it has been such a mind-bending thing for me that it's not actually, I don't need to be a genius. I don't need to be a savant or anything like that.
I love that you said that because it is true. Like when you look at our content, like all information's already been said already.
Yeah.
Like it has. It's just how you've distilled that information. Is actually you're the product. Your view on the world actually is what is driving that.
Yeah.
Like I spend a lot of my time looking at US creators.
Yeah.
Okay, they've said that in dollars. That's amazing. For pounds, like we make the video, right? And why wouldn't you? You can see it's got 2.5 million views. Like it's right there in front of you, just like the business. Like the problem is there in front of you. The solution is there in front of you. You need to fill the gap. And I think people overcomplicate it. They get themselves into like, I need this mad original content plan, and I've got to spend £25,000 on a logo. Just knock it up on Canva and get started, get moving. And I think that's what people lack. They stay in this like planning phase and they don't take action. How do they get past that and just get going? Like what stops them, do you think?
I mean, they just need to do it scared. That's it. I mean, people are very surprised at this, right? Because earlier on when you introduced me, you're like entrepreneur of the year, like Forbes 30 under 30, blah, 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 right? I don't think there was a single point in Fanbytes that I thought, wow, I feel really confident about the company's future. Even at the time that we're making like 10 million a year and we were profitable, I still felt very like, oh, this could all go to shit. This could all go left if I don't make the right decision. But all I did was each time I went, well, someone else has made it work before. And so if that someone else can make it work and there's no difference between me and that person, then I'm just going to make it work as well, right? Like my mum is from Ghana, and I remember anytime I see someone online do something very interesting, or anytime I talk to her about it, she'd always say, okay, cool, but do they have two heads? That was the line she'd always got. And it was always her way of saying, like, that person there is absolutely no different to you. And if they can do it, why can't you do it? And so I think in the back of my mind, I just always had that, okay, well, they don't have two heads. They made it happen. Therefore, I can make it happen. But throughout the duration of, even now as someone who's like somewhat accomplished, there's new things that I'm doing now, which I'm like, okay, interesting. I've never done this before. I ask
you that because like you sold the business, but I know from speaking to you and your team that you've got fingers in many pies and you're always trying things. So you must be going into that almost doing the exact same thing, like scared again.
Yeah, I mean, well, the stakes are bigger now, right? Like yesterday, I was at this event and, you know, I'm talking to people who've sold companies for like 600 million, 2 billion. You know, one guy started MuleSoft, which he sold to, I forgot, some company for like 2.4 billion or something. And I'm like, okay, interesting. There are levels to this game, but also if you think about a company like that, the skill level and the expertise that you need are different to the expertise that it needs to run a multi-eight-figure business. And so a part of me, or my old self, or rather like my normal self, which is us as human beings, our first thought is, can I do that? And then literally my mom's voice came into my head, which was like, does he have two heads? And then I look at the guy, I'm like, well, he's got one head, I've got one head. So we just got to make it happen. And so even now with someone who is somewhat accomplished, I still have that like nagging self-doubty voice. And really the only thing I can do is just like build enough evidence so that voice gets quieter and quieter.
I heard you say on a podcast, because they asked you this question. This was a couple of years ago. You were on this podcast, and this is how I first got introduced to you. And it was really interesting. And I'd love to actually ask you how you're feeling now. Because when you said it, you said, I'm actually not looking to do the 100 million business. And by the sounds of it, you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, what's changed during that period? Because obviously you had the exit. So you got the funds in. And then you're trying things, doing things, figuring out who you are probably as well and going on a journey. How's that changed for you now, and are you going for that?
So I think for a lot of us, when we get early in the game, whether it's a business game or the career game, we're typically doing it from a position of fear or wanting to prove something. So I grew up wanting to prove something, right? So as you mentioned, I went to live in Ghana for 10 years. I was born in Hackney, but I went to live in Ghana for 10 years because I was an unplanned for baby. So basically it was either I went to Ghana or I went to foster care. And so I think even from that age, 2 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, my time in Ghana, I always saw that I was coming back to England, and that was when I was going to like prove that maybe it was a mistake. It was a mistake for them, you know, to even think about me going to foster care, you know? And so I think for a long time, business for me was basically my way of just showing that I was actually significant in the world. And so when we ended up, you know, selling Fanbytes at 27, I'd done all this money, I was financially set. Then my next thing was actually that, all right, what is the reason I want to do another business again? Because my core reason was like significance. I want to feel significant. I want people to see me and feel significant. And so on that podcast, when I was like, I'm not that bothered about it, it's because at that point, I was not bothered anymore by significance because I felt like I'd done it. And then what then has now happened is now I have a different source for the reasons to build businesses. It's not I want to feel significant. It's more like I really enjoy building businesses. I really enjoy it as a game. I enjoy hiring great people. I enjoy seeing people succeed. I enjoy rallying people around a mission and saying like, let's go, boys, right? That is, to me, work, but it's also fun. And so now when I think about how do we build the next big business, it is not from a place of fear. It is from a place of possibility where you go, whoa, that would be cool to do that. And I also think, you know, candidly, and he might hear this, right? One of my very good friends is a guy called Arian Kalantari. Arian founded Lad Bible, right? And he's a good friend of mine. And, you know, Lad Bible went public at 300 million. And I remember, you know, I played paddle with Arian, I'd hang out at his house, etc. And I remember at some point, I just went, oh shit, like you built a 300 million pound company, but you're just like a normal dude.
Yeah.
And I think when I kind of internalized that, I was like, well, I can do that. And it didn't come from a place of trying to prove. It came from a place of, well, if this dude can do that, then I can also do that. And I kind of want this to be one of the main themes from the book, What's Stopping You, is like when you read through this book, you'll see like a South London boy who basically had a bunch of fear and hopes and dreams and then was tinkering around business and built a very simple business, like an agency connecting brands to influencers. And when you close the book, once you've learned all the mental and the business principles, I almost want you to say to yourself, well, if this donut can do it, then I can do it as well, right? I really don't want you to then go and say like, oh, this guy's a savant and he figured this out. I want you to be like, bro, if this bozo can do it, then I can do it as well. Because now on a different level, like I'm also thinking the same thing. I'm looking at people who sold their companies for like 300 million, $500 million. And I'm like, bro, I don't think you were actually that good. I think you picked a good market. I think you were in at the right time. And I think that you worked harder than me. But I can fix for all of those. I can also pick a better market. I can make sure the timing is right. And I can also work harder knowing what I know now. So therefore, done. I'm sure I can do that.
You're almost like more well-equipped to take on those challenges right now. And I imagine once you had that exit, you just sort of needed that time to just decompress.
Yeah.
And like reevaluate. And you probably got a bit bored as well, I'd imagine.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Like,
I mean, since Fanbytes, I've sold 2 more companies where I've been on the board of them, right? One for 19 million and the other for 23 million, right? I would not have known how to do that if I hadn't gone through Fanbytes.
Yeah.
And I would also not have become successful at Fanbytes if basically I hadn't started a bunch of businesses before and then gone, oh, this is what not to do, right? Yeah. Like the tutoring business, I started a tutoring business at 14, and basically the way it worked was I would be like connecting tutors to students, and that business, I got 65 tutors in 6 weeks, and then the business failed because what was happening was once I connected tutor to a student, they just go behind my back. So I'm not getting any commission. Yeah. And then I went, oh, well, that's a bozo move. What I should probably do is like figure out how to handle the payments. Yeah. And then that led on to my next business, which was the business I started at 17, which was like Entrepreneur Express, which was just like an online magazine. That business, I was like, hang on, in this case, I am the media publisher, so now all the payments come through me. And then the thing I learned from that is like how to run Facebook traffic, et cetera, et cetera. That business then got bought less than a year afterwards for like 110 grand. But then I'm learning from that and going, okay, interesting. What is the thing that was good there? It was the fact that I had eyeballs and I had audience. All right, how can we then parlay that into something else? So like every single business stepped into the next business, and then it taught me what not to do. And then eventually now, if you were to come to me and say, hey, I have this business, I want to sell it in the next 3 years, I'd say, all right, well, let's work backwards. Let's do this and that. Let's talk with these people, and then we'll virtually guarantee you'll be able to do that. But that only comes after I've done all the other things.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because you can take that story, but you can also take the story of like started in customer service and worked up, and then they turn around and go, oh, I feel like I've wasted 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
You haven't wasted a second. You have been learning the whole way up. And even if there's minute things, you've learned how to deal with people. You've learned so many things that you can't like push or like write it on a resume, but you've learned it. And then that can help you then make that decision to start that business. You can lean into one of those skills which you've picked up. And I always find that with people, that they feel like they're wasting their life. And I just want to say to them, like, backtrack it a little bit. It's like, you know, how can we backtrack that business? How can you backtrack your life to like pull out the things which are useful and put them into play, and then learn the things you don't.
Yeah.
Or hire or coaches or people like that. When you started Fanbytes, like, you know, these decisions for a 21-year-old, like, with all due respect, it's not normal, is it? Like, for a normal 21-year-old to think, oh, I'm going to go and connect influencers and brands at that. They're thinking about booze, girls, and, you know, partying and Xbox and playing football on a Saturday. Like, what's different there about those decisions that you were making? And like, did you have a mentor, or did you look up to someone at that point?
Pure desperation.
Okay.
Just pure desperation. Pure desire to build something which I thought could change my life. That was it. It is shockingly shocking how many things you can do when you back yourself into a corner.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
And for me, it was like, I was this 21-year-old living in South London. Unfortunately, just a few months before my dad had passed away. And I just felt this, all right, well, we got to make it work. Like, stop playing small. And my hope is that, you know, people don't wait until something significant happens and then they feel like they have to wake up. But I also think a part of it, man, you know, people talk so much about having an inferiority mindset. And I think just way more people should have a superiority mindset. Like, you should just think you are better than other people. And I think so many people, they're not going to talk about it because it doesn't sound good on a podcast, but so many people who have achieved anything of significance one day have woke up and said, hang on, I'm better than I currently am, and I'm better than other people. And because of that is the reason I'm going to win. And more people should like walk around with that energy, because when you do, magic actually happens.
When it comes to investing, choosing a stocks and shares ISA for me is one of the most important steps you can make, and it comes down to three things. What can I invest into? Are they trusted by their customers? And most importantly, how low are their fees? So after testing over 10 different providers, I have landed on Trading 212. They have an excellent mobile app with thousands of stocks and funds available, and they offer commission-free trading with 0 platform fees. Plus, they're fully FCA regulated and have FSCS protection up to the value of £85,000. And right now they're offering listeners of this podcast a free share worth up to £100 when you deposit just £1 into your account. So if you're looking for a low-cost stocks and shares ISA to start investing, it's hard to look anywhere else other than Trading 212. Use the code MGP for Money Gains Podcast to grab your free share today. It's not like you're going to be a bad person for thinking like that either.
Not at all.
In fact, it's actually, you know, you're going to help you like deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you massively. I'd love to know, because obviously once you sold Fanbytes, you had this period of time, I would imagine, where you're like, I've got lots of money now and I can do these things, and you live life as you should. You know, your hard work, you enjoy it, but you didn't buy a property. And I find that so interesting. Like, everyone would make the 10 mil, and if you ask them what was on their list, they'd say a mansion and a Porsche, right?
That's funny.
Like, you didn't do that, and I'd love to know why. None of them.
I didn't get a mansion or a Porsche. In fact, I still hadn't passed my driving test.
No way.
Yeah, so then at 29 was when I passed my driving test. And the first car I bought is the only car that I have, which is a Tesla. So it's not even a fancy car, it's just a Tesla because it drives really, really smooth. And I didn't buy a mansion. I don't have a mansion. I just don't have a desire for it. So why didn't I buy property? I think property is the worst way to get rich. I think it is one of the most... I think property is one of the biggest propaganda machines to you getting rich. Because to me, if your goal is, I want to make X amount of money in a short period of time, then the number one thing you should bet on is your current skill set. Because if you compound your own skill set, you will make a lot more money than if you basically say, I'm going to park some money into this thing I can't control and just let time do its thing. So you're basically outsourcing your own wealth, which I find crazy. If your thing is, I want to create wealth, and then your vehicle is, now I want to just outsource it to just a thing I can't even control, which is just property, and let time do its thing, I think it is such a bad message that we share. Now, property is good as a wealth preserver, as a wealth compounder. But in my humble opinion, if you don't have liquid over 250 grand, do not invest in property. Take that money, equip yourself with the right skills, learn sales, learn marketing, learn copywriting, learn internet marketing, learn ads, learn public speaking, learn something which is basically your own money-making skill, and then deploy that into a business, because that is going to pay you a lot more returns than just, oh, I get some money and then I'm just going to stick it in a fixed thing that I can't control. And maybe this might be even controversial, right? But I think this is definitely going to be controversial. Like, I think it is fear that drives people to invest in property. I think it's a lack of belief in yourself that you can actually be someone who can build something of significance, so you outsource your wealth-giving ability to a propaganda machine like the bank, 100%. Because what happens, what you do, you equip yourself with the skills, you make the money, then you take that money and then you then deploy it into the property as a wealth preserver, and then you go back to your main wealth generation machine, which is your business, your skills, and your time.
So you're saying build the wealth generation machine.
Yeah.
And then if you want to preserve it, then you buy the house.
Yeah. But you do not make your money in property. Now, I know people do the whole fixer-uppers and I've got a, I've got a 4-bedroom in Lincolnshire, which I found for £2. All right. Great for you. Assume that is not what you want to do, because there's a lot of work and effort. And then sure, if that's your business, great. But if your thing is, I'm going to buy this property, then I'm going to remortgage and I'm going to do that stuff. It's like, bro, if your goal is wealth, just invest in yourself and build a business. Very simple. Or, and my friend Dan Priestley actually talks about this, or go work for someone, go work in close proximity to somebody who has already succeeded, so that you can learn all the things to do. Because one of my biggest regrets in business is that I didn't work for someone. And people are always shocked by this. But there was so much bullshit that I did in business, which were as a result of me just not knowing how to do certain things.
Yeah.
And if I just literally for 12 months just gone to work for someone who was already successful, I would have gone, oh, this is how to run this sort of business. This is how to do these sort of things. And also not have fear. It took us about 3 years for us to figure out how to charge over 100 grand for our service. Our competitors were charging $500,000 from year one. Wow. And a big part of it was just fear. It was fear, where these 21, 22, 23-year-old kids who almost didn't have the balls to ask for big numbers. If I had worked for someone during that period and they're already talking about, right, let's do this thing for $1 million, let's do this thing for $500,000, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's normal. And so there's also a mental turnaround that you get when you actually go and work for people where your ceiling is their floor. And that is a very, very important part of all this entrepreneurship game.
Yeah. It's that room thing, isn't it? If you're the biggest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room. Shut down that room. Burn the room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so true. Like, I found it so interesting you say that, because it's like everybody in the UK thinks that that's their pathway, right? They go, oh, I've got to find the girl, I've got to get promoted, I've got to save really hard, and then I've got to buy the house. And I find that that journey alone for people is actually what causes most of the problems, because the issues come later is that they haven't really understood who they are, and they haven't chased their dreams and their purposes, and their values, and they haven't kept to those. They've conformed. And when they get to 50, they blow up, they buy the red sports car, they leave the wife, they get a 21-year-old girlfriend, and then they go through this weird period and see the kids on the weekend, and life becomes inherently unhappy at that point. And I find that if we can break that cycle earlier, just by asking ourselves the harder questions, and not having the fear of having the 2-minute conversation that you're avoiding, it could change your entire life.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's short. So like, why the fuck are we putting ourselves through that?
Yeah. Don't you find it quite funny that we live in a world where your life now is a culmination of a lot of different turns that you took? And sometimes I like to play this experiment with friends where I say, let's pick 10 pivotal moments in your life and let's go back to them and make a different decision. What do you think would have happened? And some of them are so insane. It's like, oh, if I didn't go out with that girl, what would have happened? If I didn't go out with that guy, what would have happened? If I didn't go for that job promotion, what would have happened? If I didn't go to university and rather had an apprenticeship, what would have happened? And you end up having this almost thing where you know,
much just went through my head.
Then you go, oh shit, right? But then here is actually the thing that makes it amazing, which is your future life from now is also going to be a bunch of different turns. And you are the person who gets to dictate where those turns go. Do you go for that job promotion? Do you play it small? Do you ask out that girl? Do you not? And all of these things are just different pathways which get you to a completely different point. It's pretty amazing to think, isn't it?
It is. When you like break it back like that. Yeah. Like I had a flashback of my ex-girlfriend just like kicking off, and then I was like, oh, if I hadn't done that thing that day, would I still probably be with her?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Like you didn't even realize those types of things, like conversations that happen in your head.
Fascinating.
Those tiny moments which change your whole course of your life. And you are right. Like you have always 2 paths ahead of you, right? Sometimes multiple paths, but you always have choice. And you've got the choice now. And so where are you going to go? Like, what's the next move for you?
So I think there's 2 main things. One is, you know, I wrote this book, What's Stopping You? I wrote it out January 15th. I wrote it because I genuinely was like, well, the 21-year-old version of me, that person who was anxious, self-doubted, and like knew that he could do more in life, but just didn't know how to do it, would have absolutely loved to have this playbook. Right? So it's structured very short, 11 cheat codes. Each cheat code are something like we are the stories that we tell ourselves, or it's not that deep, or how to build a network when you are a nobody. They're all basically playbooks to say, hey, you're going on this entrepreneurial journey, or you're going on this journey of like self-discovery. Here's the things to watch out for because I went through them, and here's the way to circumvent them. And I hope at the end you realize that you can do it, and here's a path to do it. So by the end of it, and that's why it's called What's Stopping You, it's like now you have the mindset to do it. You have the practical do this, don't do this. And then you have the money as well, because we even go into like how to ask for investment and how to get investment for your idea. So now you have all of that, bro. What the heck is stopping you, right? And if you do that, you just, come on. If that can't help you, then boss, I don't know what can. You know, I'm just like, I don't know what else can help you if we lay out the entire path for you and you just don't step in it.
What's a cheat code that has become more true now since your exit, do you think?
Probably the final cheat code. Cheat code number 11 is everything big starts small. And the reason I actually made that the final cheat code, and I'll tell you why it resonates even more now. I made that the final cheat code because when you talk about my story, you say, you know, like he sold Fanbytes, he made all this money, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking about like multi-8 figures and all that stuff. But actually the most important bit of money, that I made was at 14 when I started that tutoring business. And I connected tutors to students, and someone gave me a £5 cut out of a £15 an hour thing. And I was like, yo, that is mental. Like, I have just thought about this idea and I've put it out into the world. And if that £5 hadn't happened, Fanbytes, the multi-8-figure exit, would not have happened. Because in that, I basically told myself, wow, I'm the sort of person who can invent stuff, and like people pay me for stuff. I can go to strangers and they'll pay me. So the reason why I say it's even more relevant now is because as I'm starting new businesses now, and I have a vision for what could be 100 million business or 300 million business, a part of me is still going, crap, man, 100 million business starts off with us doing like the first 100 grand again. And
first customer through the door.
The first customer, the first order, the first this, the first that, you know. Right now, I'm in the business of like buying media companies, right? And I have this idea, which is I have this company that I look at on the stock market. They're called Future Publishing.
Oh,
you know Future? Yeah, right?
Course.
Future make 800 million a year.
It's nuts.
Right?
Yeah, and most people wouldn't even know who they are.
Exactly, right? But you read their stuff or use their sites. And I'm going and I'm thinking, okay, cool. I think we can build something similar to that. But that 800 million a year business starts off with buying the first business, which probably just makes like 2 million a year. So now I'm back into the everything big starts small, where I'm like, all right, we get to 800 million and give it 10 years, give it 5 years. But it starts off with this 2 million acquisition. So everything big starts small, Timo. And if you said that as the final chapter of your book, then you got to live your raps, mate, you know?
Mate, I love it though, because I sold an ebook on like literally on a website, and I drove that piece of traffic from Google. They clicked on the landing page, they bought the ebook, and I've got the receipt still printed.
That's dope.
It's a $1.99.
That's sick,
like a
man.
Canva ebook. And I just think it is true, because like that was it for me. I remember that day is like I was running a hospitality business.
That's so interesting.
We actually opened a venue literally 2 stones throw from where we are right now, Amazing Grace, on St. Thomas Street. And I was standing in the middle of the church, and this band was getting ready around me. They were doing a sound check to play, and the notification come up on my phone. I looked at my email, and I was like, flying. Like, it literally felt like I was like, wow, like this is one. Like, and we're 6 months in. Like, Jesus, like what happens now? Like what happens is it grows, grows. And so it's so true. Like, just that first moment is the key point. But you believe in yourself to get to that moment. And so that's why a lot of people, they frame their first sale and do this. And I had to, because it was just such a big moment for me.
That was what I was gonna say. I don't think enough of us I don't think enough people memorialize their first wins. You know, the first Shopify ping that you get, screenshot that, frame it. The first customer, you know, the first ever campaign we did at Fanbytes was for £300 from GoApe. Right? And I dearly wish we had that framed. I dearly wish that we had that framed, because by the time we sold the company, we're selling like 300 grand deals to L'Oreal. And that happened in 5-6 years. But really taking stock, and this doesn't have to even be in business, right? Let's think about you working professionally. You want to get a role, and your ideal role, and they send you the job offer. Fucking screenshot that, frame it in your room. Like, that was me who did that, right? Because your brain then just gets used to, I'm a winner. I'm the sort of person who just gets what they want. And there's something incredible when you just walk around in the world like, I'm a winner. Like, good things happen to me. I expect good things to happen to me.
It's abundance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's thinking like that. Like, I've got that framed, and I've also got my bank balance the day I hit zero, when I had 24 grand of debt. So I got rid of that, and I hit zero. And it was like monumental for me. And I was like, right, we're never going back there. And so I have that, and I have the little $1.99. And I have a couple of other things as well. Like, I cut up the credit card, and I've still got the credit card.
Wow.
So it's just like these little things and moments. And I'm a massive fan of them because even though they're there, like you don't really know they're there, but you know they're there.
Yeah.
And like, it just gives you that thing. And every time, I actually wrote a post about this on LinkedIn today, which is about taking stock.
Sick. Yeah.
And just like looking back, because you're probably really similar to me. You're like, decision, thank you, next. Decision, thank you, next. And you do have to, like, it's your own Spotify rap, so you should be doing that to yourself constantly, isn't it? Like,
it's you wrapped.
Yeah, you wrapped.
That's a great product. Someone should have you wrapped, and it's just, this is what you did in 2026, and it's just Google your momentum.
Will come for you, man. But it is like, just look back at this year, like, what have you done? Like, I'm sure you've smashed it.
Yeah.
But you just don't let yourself believe that about yourself.
Yeah. One of the things I encourage a friend to do, and I'll highly encourage your listeners to do, is go on ChatGPT or go on Claude and then just open a project called Your Year. And then in it, just start voice recording, just rambling about your year. And then tell it to turn it into your top 10 highlights.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And eventually what will happen is what it will spit out at you would be things where you go, oh my God, I actually did so many cool things this year. And then you can screenshot that, frame it, put it in your room. And like, that is your 2025 wrapped. Nice. That is you wrapped. And that's a very powerful thing to be like, I did that. I'm the guy who did that. I'm the girl who did that. That's a very powerful thing.
I'm going to build the prompt and leave it in the description for someone because that's a really cool idea. Like, I love all of that because you can prompt it to do such cool stuff. And like you should believe in yourself. And I think that's like what we don't let ourselves do a lot of the time. Like the post today was about like how much we've achieved in 6 months with a core team of 6, which most people will look at and go like, that's impossible. Yeah. But actually now we're like, wow, we've done that. Like, it's pretty cool. And I think I don't let myself feel that a lot. So I think it's quite a cool thing. But I'd love to know, like, if you were mentoring your 16-year-old self, you know, someone that reminds you of old Tim, for example, which one of your principles in the book would you get them to master first and why?
So chapter 1 or Chico 1 is called We Are the Stories We Tell Ourselves. And it's a reason why that's chapter 1. It's because in the book, we tell you about how to grow a network, how to come up with interesting business ideas, how to get investment, how to build a team, how to spot when you have a good idea or a bad idea. We do all of that. And that's great. But if the foundation of it is that you still have a negative story that you tell yourself, then this was just going to be another book that you read where you said, yeah, that was a good book. And then you just dropped it. And so for that 16-year-old Timo, the thing which I would say to that person is, what is the story that you're telling yourself every single day? And then how are you actively rewriting that story? Because the way that I think about beliefs is very simple. It's like, imagine a chair, right? If this chair had only one stand on it and I just knocked it, it'd go over easier, right? If it had 2, it'd be a bit sturdier. If it had 3, it'd be sturdier. If it had 4, it'd be sturdier. And eventually, you could basically put like so many stands underneath that is the sturdiest thing possible. And the way that I see it is, our beliefs are basically this chair, and then the evidence are the stands that we have. And so for me, anytime I thought about a negative story, like, oh, maybe I'm not the type of person who can do this, right? I mean, I'll be candid. There was a site I used to read a lot, retire21.com, right? And when I'd go on the site and I read all these stories, every single person I saw was a white person. And I remember for some reason, my brain then started going, well, they succeeded because they are white. And I remember thinking, what the heck is this bullshit? Why am I telling myself this excuse of a story? Yeah. When really it should be, well, they succeeded because they found a problem and then they applied a solution and they just kept doing it. And I legit had to rewire myself to do that. And unfortunately, I see this a lot with people where your first story you tell is an excuse. Like, they succeeded because they're white. They succeeded because they are taller. They succeeded because they are a man. They succeeded because they went to private school. And it's all these like, they succeeded because of this. And all that does is that it gives you permission to not do the thing. And so this is why the thing I'll tell the 16-year-old Timo is like, you are the story you tell yourself. Intentionally pursue a positive story, because when you pursue a positive story, you get positive outcomes.
Yeah. And after I read that first chapter, I said it to you outside.
Yeah.
I've just been chanting stuff at myself like all day. I was doing it on the train on the way up here. I was like, you are gonna deliver a great interview. You're gonna deliver a great interview. Like, just if you get yourself into that mindset, and I got here and you just, because you see people like yourselves on the internet and stuff like that, and then you meet them in person, you want to show up. Like, you want to be good. And so,
well, I think this is a great interview, by the way. You ask good questions, and you ask questions that I'm not often asked, and that is great.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we try, man, because I can imagine like people will go through the cheat codes in the book.
Yeah.
They'll pull out the things and you just say the same things. You've just spent a year writing it.
Yeah. Of course I know what's in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I wanted to sort of speak to you about it because I'm interested too. Like, we're building businesses.
Yeah.
We're building an app. We're scaling content businesses and media companies. Like, that's what we want to do. And so I just find it so interesting because I like learning from people that are a couple of steps or a few steps ahead of me. When I first started out, it's like, how the hell do I set up this? How do I do that? You wouldn't be saying, but now I'm like, okay, he's done that. So then how do I get to that point? Yeah. Where's the gap? And like, what's the things that I need to pursue to get to those points? And I think it's just always about learning and challenge yourself. But I'd love to ask you a question because we spoke about this earlier. And it's like, what's a principle that you haven't spoken about publicly, but you absolutely swear by?
That you can speed run opportunity. So what I mean by that is, I think often we are told that there is a certain amount of time for you to get from A to B. So this is actually very prevalent in the professional world. You go, how do you become a vice president at this bank? You say, well, first you become an analyst, then you become an associate, then you become this, then you become director, and then the whole thing takes 7 years, right? But over time, I've come to appreciate that that's just a bullshit way of doing things. That actually there is always a third door. And there is always a way where maybe it's you do something really significant or you do something which is really extraordinary that some bank somewhere says, you know what, this person is director level and forget going through all of that stuff. We're going to get them in. If I think about, going back to 17, the company that I started, Entrepreneur Express, right? I got to interview Richard Branson because I went through the third door. Because I had this magazine, I knew that I needed to create amazing content. And I knew that in order to get amazing content, I needed to interview great people. And so there was an event, which was at the Excel, and Richard Branson, Alan Sugar, and James Caan were all speaking at the event. And I was like, I know that if I can get Branson there, I will be a great interview and I can then drive traffic to it. But I'm a 17-year-old who's on a 4th floor council estate on Oaken Road. Who the fuck am I to basically show up when Forbes and BBC and all these big boys are doing the interviews? So then I go, right, okay, how do I do this? And at that point, I think I'd read a book which basically said, like, you can get everything that you want if you can help other people get everything they want.
Yes.
And I went, interested. What would the organizer of this business conference want? Well, he'd want to make more revenue, but also reduce costs. What is something that actually takes up a lot of cost? Well, the chairs for the event. Because you have 2,000 people coming to this event. What if I email him and I say, tell you what, you don't need to pay the people for the chairs. I will basically come and I would lay out all the chairs for you. And in return, all I want is for you to just give me a press pass. I thought, well, logically that makes sense. I'm just going to do that. So then I emailed him and I was like, you don't know me. I don't know you, but I would like to get a press pass to interview Richard Branson. And in return, what I want to do is just come and lay out all the chairs. And at that point, I'm 17. I'm still at 6th form. Within 20 minutes, I get back an email. The guy says, this is the most ridiculous email I've ever got. but you're on.
Yeah. Because you're saving him money. Like it's money and time, right?
Exactly. Then in a few days, I'm there in the Excel arena. I skip school and I am there and I'm laying out all of these shares. But I'm happy. I'm happy because I'm like, yo, I'm going to meet Richard Branson and I'm going to interview him and it's going to be great. And then the next day, I then got to interview Branson and I got to ask him questions. They were really bad questions, but I still did it anyway. And then I got the article and then I drove traffic to it and blah, blah, blah. The reason I share that story is because I could have just said, well, I'm just not Forbes. I'm just not BBC. I'm just not Business Insider. So
not ready,
cool. I'm not ready. So sure, fine. But what I did was I sped run the entire thing. I didn't go, I'm just going to wait until the time when I'm ready. I went, nope. I think the path from A to B is not this to this.
Yeah.
I think it's just, and if I do it that way, then it would just win.
I love that you said that. A friend of mine, Clodagh, I know she listens to the podcast as well, so she'll like.
Hi, Clodagh.
Hey, Clodagh. She did something so interesting, right? So when one of your old clients, L'Oreal, someone who works in PR for them, they have a roughly between 2,500 to 3,500 applicants for one single role, and the role is open for a matter of days. Everyone wants L'Oreal PR, right? Because free stuff, right? I get it, and it's also cool on the CV. But what Clodagh did was she third doored it. So instead of applying like everybody else, she built a massive billboard that attached to herself as a costume that said, hire me, I'm your PR manager, and went and stood outside the L'Oreal office and stood there for the whole day, making herself look totally stupid. But guess what happened? Head of PR walked out and went, no, you've got the job. Like, that's it. Yeah. Like you've done the thing. Like you went there and you third doored it. Yeah. So like, this is all of the things you're looking at that pathway going, I don't have enough experience in my resume. She'd only ever done a couple of roles before that. She wasn't really that well experienced, but it's the ability to step out and conform. Yeah. Not conform to what the pathway is in front of you and then see if there is a way around, right?
Yeah. And in there, I think is a very amazing lesson, which is like, how do you make it a no-brainer? Because the number one reason why people or an employer wouldn't make a decision is because there is risk attached to that decision. And so often the best people that I've ever hired, I mean, he's currently in the studio now, but like I had a guy, Jonah, right? Jonah, basically, we were talking on LinkedIn, and then within a few hours, he built this like massive presentation about like the Timor brand, what each platform should do, how it should sit into the broad ecosystem. I was like, bro, I didn't even ask you for this. Yeah. But it slaps. Yeah. So let's meet tomorrow, right? And I think that we met like the next day or something. We met on Sunday, and then Jonah doesn't know this, so you don't know this, but like I had already made my decision before I met you. Because I was like, if this guy has been able to do that, is meeting me also on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
You know, it's just like, okay, cool. So then I was just like, oh, that's interesting. But I already made up my mind. And then I just said, yo, I'm actually going to invent a role for you. Tomorrow, start. Right? And because what he'd effectively done is like taken out the risk out of the decision. Totally. And so if you, again, this doesn't just apply to business. If you're going for any career, any job, anything at all, you almost want to ask yourself, like, for the hiring manager, what is the risk to them? And then how do I completely get rid of that risk? If you're trying to get investment, for example, for your own idea, you might say something like, all right, I'm going to create a pitch deck and then try and find investors. Or you might say something like, well, I'm going to get 10 people to say yes and actually pay for the service, because the investor's biggest risk is that, well, what if I invest and nobody actually wants the product? Yeah. So I'm going to get rid of the risk by actually getting people to pay for it and then go to them and say, hey, I already have traction. I've already got rid of so much of the risk. So now you have to invest.
I feel that right now, man. That's what every VC and investor is saying to us. Like, yeah, cool, you got a great wait list, but does it convert? Let's find out. Let's chat in 6 months. I'm like, we need the money now. Interesting. We're playing that game. It's really interesting. So, but we managed to do it, but it's been a battle trying to get through, and we've had to de-risk certain situations for them. thankfully we have a big audience, and that sort of ticks a lot of boxes for them, and they like that. But yeah, that's a conversation we're having there. So yeah, happens in all walks of life, like careers, business. What can you third door? How can you get yourself up the ladder quickly? I love that, man. Thank you so much. And look, the book's coming out when?
So the book is out on Jan the 15th. We're actually doing this amazing thing on Jan the 10th. So the book is called What's Stopping You. You can pre-order it now. On Jan the 10th, we're doing What's Stopping You Live, which is basically an event with myself, Simon Squibb, Dan Priestley, Tim Campbell.
Oh, deep.
Mate, the Avengers of business. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And we're doing this event. It's a virtual event and it's a free event, which is basically to launch What's Stopping You, the book. And the whole purpose of it is this, right? Like everyone is coming on, and for 30 minutes, I'm asking them questions submitted by you. You get to pitch them your own business ideas. You get to also, I'm giving away 10 grand of my own money to basically people throughout the call for them to actually launch the business.
Cool.
And so literally, I'm like, bro, you are hearing from people about how to do the thing. You can submit your own business ideas. I'm even giving you money to start the thing. And if you have all of that and you still don't do the thing, then bro, like I can't help you. You know? Yeah. And so that's why we call it like What's Stopping You Live, because we're doing on Jan the 10th is the perfect way to actually kick off your actual year, to say, all right, this year, 2026 is not going to be the same as 2025. I'm actually going to do the thing. So that, you can just get on my Instagram or just search like What's Stopping You Live. We have thousands of people on there.
Look, I've loved the book, so we will 100% be pushing this for you, mate. And we will put the link to the live event as well in there. We'll pop an email out with it all in there as well for you, because I think more people need to be stepping out of this. It's a massive part of what we do. We talk about fear, even with investing and growing and saving, and just getting past like believing, I've come from this area in this neighborhood, so I can't go out and be this individual. Happens in business, life, finances, it's all of the things. So this book so far for me has just been ticking all of those boxes. It's like everything that I would like to say to someone. So we will 100% be helping you, man. So really appreciate you for coming on, and good luck with the launch.
Thank you very much.